Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambeau channel. David Schwartz, who is Ripple's CTO and co-creator of the XRP ledger, says it is time to reduce, and by a lot, reduce the reserve requirements of XRP when opening up a new XRP account. Right now, as I record this, 20 XRP must be held in reserve to open a new account, and when it comes time for you to cash out, if that's what you want to do, 20 XRP must be left behind, and that's part of the design. So they want to make sure that it's well, there are a number of reasons, including it's harder to spam the network when there's a reserve requirement like that. Because if you want to do like a DDoS style, denial of service style attack, it's gonna get really pricey pretty damn quick. So good luck. but I'm going to share with you his perspective, because he first started talking about this idea earlier in April, and he said if XRP hits so-and-so, which I'll highlight in just a second, then he said that he would push for it, and it happened, and he is. So it's interesting. But before we go any further here, I do want to be clear that I do not have a financial background of any kind. I am not offering financial advice, and you should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. I'm just an enthusiast who enjoys making YouTube videos as a fun hobby about Ripple and XRP and cryptocurrencies in general. That's all that's going on here. Take a look at this. Now, I pulled this up. This is interesting because I bet a lot of people don't realize the reserve amount of XRP, which again today is 20 XRP to start a new account. That reserve used to be higher. In fact, it used to be 50. Now, I'll share this too, and I didn't find evidence of this. It may be true, it may not, but I've seen a number of people over the years talk about how XRP's reserve amount used to be, oh gosh, what are some of the numbers? I've seen 200, I've seen 300, I've seen 500. I don't know if any of that's true. I don't know of a great way to look that up. So, and I don't pretend to know everything about Ripple and XRP. I like the idea of being able to share what I do know with you, but then also learning from people that engage with me on Twitter and watch these videos that I put on YouTube. So if you know, please let me know, and I'll be happy to talk about it and credit you in a future video if you are aware. So I'm not sure if that's actually accurate, but for sure, XRP's reserve did used to be higher. In fact, it used to be 50. So check this out. This was a piece written by Monica Long. Monica Long, she's a Ripple employee. And so this is part of Ripple's official blog series called Ripple Insights. And this is from December 4th, 2013. So mind you, at this point, XRP had been on the open market for somewhere in the neighborhood of a year. I think it was a little bit less than a year. If memory serves, it was the tail end of December 2012 when XRP, the final version of it, officially went live. And so here's the headline from it. Proposed change to Ripple reserve requirement. And again, December 4th, 2013. As a public good, the Ripple network must be accessible to people around the world. As the price of XRP has risen, we recognize the reserve requirement to create ledger entries has become a barrier to entry for some people. And so that's self-evident, isn't it? As the price of XRP goes up, it'll take that many more United States dollars or whatever your fiat currency is, planted in it, stuck in theory forever. Not that it's necessarily going to be forever, but it's until requirements change having to do with the reserve, it's stuck there. So you can imagine what if you have a world where XRP's $10 and you have to have 20 XRP just to open up a damn account, which is insane to think, because that actually might happen this market cycle. I don't know if it is. And look, I'm not making a prediction. There are all sorts of analysts that think that we are going to see at least $10 this market cycle. And if it happens as quickly as last market cycle, I mean, my gosh, XRP went from 20-something cents to almost $4 in like 2.5 weeks. So that could be a bit of a barrier to entry. But I mean, money's still going to flow in, but it just makes me wonder to what degree that could potentially be problematic. But it certainly didn't stop people from purchasing XRP and setting up new accounts when it was in the neighborhood of $4. It was just about there. And also, a lot of people, since people are wishy-washy and get in and out of positions, it's also true that if you're doing cold storage, you may already have an account. And if you don't, it may not be a problem, because check this out. Here's why, and this is a good argument for why it might not be that big of a deal. It's only going to matter for most people if you want to set up your own cold storage wallet. But most cryptocurrency exchanges use shared wallets, and so you may have noticed when you're moving XRP to an exchange, you have to enter a tag ID, which is you may be wondering why that is. Well, it's basically a little sub address indicating which portion of a shared address is yours. And so if there's a tag ID, there you go. That's why. I don't know if there are other reasons that a tag ID is useful, but it is for that. And so as a result, if you're actually utilizing in a wallet that the exchange owns and is hosting, then you can move 100% of your XRP out. So then that 20 XRP reserve doesn't matter. So given that, I suspect the vast majority of people trading are not going to set up their own cold storage, and I believe that the vast majority of traders are you know, they're just going to be on exchanges that have an interface to where you don't have to set up your own cold storage. I don't think it's going to matter that much. That would be like, it can still be a barrier, but for people that are just going to keep their XRP on exchange, which I think is most people, they'll still be able to bid the price up without having that tremendous barrier here. But anyway, so check this out. The current base reserve, and again, this is as of December 4th, 2013, the current base reserve is 50 XRP, and the reserve for each charged item, for example, a trust line or offer, is 12.5 XRP. So the base reserve, again, 50 XRP, and then a trust line would be 12.5 XRP. That's what it was back then, and I'll explain more about that in just a second if you're wondering what the hell they're talking about by trust line. The purpose of reserve requirements is to prevent ledger spam, so they should be a nominal amount. To align reserves with the current trading price of XRP, we propose changing the base reserve to 20 XRP and charged item reserve to 5 XRP, which preserves the current base charged item ratio. And ultimately that is what happens. So the charged item reserve, as they're calling it here, 5 XRP, and the base reserve is 20 XRP today. So this has persisted for some time, including through the entirety of the last market cycle, which is impressive, right? No change for the vast majority of XRP's existence, but now maybe we're going to see something, which I wouldn't mind. But anyway, we will float this proposal to the network, and then it'll be up to the validators to vote on the change for it to go into effect. Right now, Ripple Labs oversees the majority of validators on unique node lists, or UNLs for short, but we're working to add validators operated by a variety of organizations and individuals. And so that's certainly true. There was a much stronger argument to be made that the XRP ledger was much more centralized back then, and it was. But today, Ripple has absolutely no special permissions over the XRP ledgers, and so kudos to Ripple for following through with what they said they were going to do, and they certainly did it successfully. It took years and years and years, but of course it did. And that's not a complaint. It's just an acknowledgement of what happened. It did. And so then they have the subheading, how validators vote on reserve levels. And this is interesting. On the Ripple network, validators vote for new reserve levels. Administrators can configure their Ripple servers to vote for reserve levels they believe are appropriate. Prior to the vote, validators announce their desired reserve levels and their validations, making their desires public and allowing other validators to see what reserve levels have sufficient supports. Validators can then inject pseudo transactions into the consensus process to change the reserve level. Any pseudo transactions included by a majority of weighted trust will survive into the consensus ledger, changing the reserve level. So functionally, that's how it works. And this is not something people normally talk about. I find it very fascinating, so I wanted to share it with you because I think when you get into like this level of detail, it's not something that's frequently discussed. Usually, what is discussed is win Moon, win Lambo. By the way, the answer, Friday, 2 p.m. Now you know. So here's a tweet from David Schwartz. This first one was from April 10th, and then the rest of them are brand spanking new. They got that new tweet smell that we've all come to love so much. So here's what David Schwartz wrote on April 10th. If the price of XRP stays over $1 United States dollar for 2 weeks, I will personally start advocating for a drop in the XRP ledger reserve requirements from 20/5 to 10/2. So right there, the 20/5 number, that's representing the 20 is the base reserve like we talked about, and you know what the number 5 is. So now he's suggesting that it should be reduced to the base reserve being 10, and then 2 for the what did they call David Schwartz called it something different in the thread compared to what it was cited here. A charged no, that's a charged item ratio, whatever. Yeah, well, trust, you can call it a trust line too. See, it's used for separate things. So here's the thing: it's not just what was cited there. So the XRP ledger also changed. There was an amendment that was proposed and actually passed. And XRP accounts are actually now deletable, but at inception they actually weren't. But there's a fee associated with that, and that's also what the second number is. So it's trust lines, and also that's the fee to delete an account also. And so it costs 5 XRP. So if you want to delete your account, you're still never gonna get all of your XRP back then, right? But that makes sense, because otherwise, it would still be a little bit easier to spam the network if you could get 100% of it back. So anyway. Somebody asked David, though, somebody named Crypto Engineer on Twitter wrote, even 10 XRP still too much for many people. Why not 1 or 2 XRP? A totally legit question. And David Schwartz did respond. And he wrote, in my opinion, too great a risk that future events will create the need for a higher reserve, and raising the reserve is really awful to do. So what's he talking about there? Well, he's saying... effectively, because why would that be a problem? Think about it. Why would it be a problem to raise the reserve? Think functionally what this means, okay? So the price of XRP is going up, so we're reducing it so that the barrier to entry is lower. Makes sense. What if the price crashes all the way back down then? Like, functionally, what would that even look like? Do you raise the reserve then? And what's that gonna? Because then if you raise the reserve also, then whoever created their accounts while the reserve was lower, they might not be too happy, because then more of their money is locked up in this in XRP. You can't cash out of the account because it's coded into it. You literally can't get it out, and there's no customer service department to complain to. You can talk to validators, I guess, if you can get a hold of them. But that's what it would look like. And so I'm just sitting here wondering, because the idea was floated also. Why don't you just have the reserve amount just be pegged so that it's based upon what the market rate of XRP is, and then just is constantly in flux. And so that was, to me, on the surface, that sounds like a good idea, but admittedly there is a problem. If it's pegged to that, then you could have the reserve amount go back up, which I agree with David Schwartz, of course, not exactly desirable for a couple of reasons, right? So what might the workaround for something like that be? And I have a thought on this. If this is a bad idea, somebody like David Schwartz with a tech background would have to articulate to me why. But why can't you just have it so that if you create a new XRP account, if there's a reserve that's lowered, if the reserve amount gets lowered, you get to benefit from that. It'll be lower than perhaps when you initially set up your account, so you can remove more XRP than you otherwise would have when you set up the account, right? That makes sense. But why can't you have those accounts also be grandfathered in so that if the reserve amount does go up, like say it was attached or variable, just based on the market price of XRP, just have it so that accounts that are in existence don't get hit with higher reserves. So if there's an argument to why that would be terrible, I'm totally open-minded. I'm just kind of spitballing here. I've been thinking about it for a while. But to me, that seems, at least on the surface, to make sense. And because having the reserve reduced, that's not going to harm people, but yeah, it could be a problem. It could really upset some people if it gets raised beyond what they were expecting it to do. So why not just have that coded in? And that seems to be, I would think that would be a workaround anyway. And so here is the tweet from today from David Schwartz. Because mind you, the price of XRP, and it's been a couple weeks since David Schwartz tweeted that out. The price of XRP, it actually did dip below $1. I know it got down to 91 cents, but I don't think that that we had a close for the day below $1. And so I think that's why he's not counting that. That's my guess anyway. I didn't see him address that, but I believe that's why. Because otherwise this doesn't make sense. Like, how would he not be aware that it went down to 91 cents? I suspect he is aware. And so this was just a bit earlier today. He tweeted this out. I now personally advocate lowering the XRP ledger reserves from 20/5 to 10/2. I have not discussed this with anyone at Ripple. Thinking about it, I probably should have. It is my personal position. And XRP community member Stuart XRP responded to that with the following. Why do you need to discuss with Ripple about lowering the XRP ledger reserves when it's not Ripple's decision. XRP ledger is decentralized, and the validators will vote for changes like the XRP ledger reserves being lowered. It's great that you could advocate this, but the decision will be the votes. And David actually did respond to that, and I think it's a totally fair question. David wrote, because no matter what I say, people will often interpret me as speaking for Ripple or articulating Ripple's position, particularly when I speak about XRP. I wanted to be clear that here I'm not doing that, at least not yet. So there you go. And Ripple does have a say in it. They just don't have any special permissions over the ledger, but yeah. And so then an XRP community member named XRP Attorney Seal responded to David and wrote, I think people are starting to realize that David Schwartz and Ripple are two separate entities. Just like mainstream people are starting to realize that XRP and Ripple are two separate entities. Yes, some people are finally getting that. So there we are. So anyway, I found this all interesting. Let me know what you think below, and if you have any information about what the initial reserve rate was for XRP. Was it higher than 50, or was that actually the starting point? I'm actually not sure, so if anybody can find that, again, let me know, and I'd be happy to credit you in the future, but I need a source in order to confidently report that on the channel here. And also, if you can think of any idea why my idea for a variable reserve rate based on the market price of XRP is a bad idea when including basically some sort of grandfather then type of code that would make it so that once you set up your account, you are not going to have a higher reserve, even though the reserve for new accounts would be variable. If that's a bad idea, that's fine. I can't think of a reason off the top of my head. So if you think that's a bad idea, just I'd love to hear the case for that. But I'll go ahead and wrap up here. I am not a financial advisor. Do not buy or sell anything, because if anything I say or write, that would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo.